Hi! So it's my first full summer in the South. I'm sticky all the time and really sweaty. It's super hot today, so I'm leaving my AC on, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't mess with the audio too much. If it does, oops. So podcasts have become a problem. Like a geopolitical and moral problem. For a while now, I've been stewing on a video idea about how there are too many podcasts, and just how unreliable and inconsistent they are as a source of information, and how detrimental relying on them has been for people's brains. I've been writing the video too, but also stewing on it. And as I was writing this video, the Nelk boys of the Full Send podcast decided to go ahead and prove my point for me, and dropped an interview with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This is the flop of the summer, okay, let me tell you. Benjamin Netanyahu is a certifiable war criminal, and the man most singularly responsible for the genocide in Gaza.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
He's used food and medical aid as bait to massacre innocent Palestinian civilians. They used Palantir's Lavender AI program under an initiative called Daddy's Home that would allow Israel's surveillance state to track the families of suspected terrorists and strike their homes. This has killed generations. And these fucking morons podcast with this guy. There is a line where ignorance goes so far that it just becomes malicious regardless of intent. This is just evil. Now, I'm hardly a fan of the Nelk boys. I don't know if you can tell. I hardly even know who they are. They're Nelk 1 and Nelk 2 to me. But the Nelk boys have done podcast interviews with prominent politicians before, at least American ones, like Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, RFK Jr., and Elon Musk, as well as prominent right-wing influencers responsible for laundering Israel's war crimes on a regular basis. Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh, Sean Hannity, Bill Maher, Caitlyn Jenner. But, you know, to even the playing field, they've also had on anti-Semitic Nazis like Candace Owens, Aiden Ross, Andrew Tate, and Tucker Carlson. Oh, can't forget one of my favorite podcasters, Phil. I don't call him Dr. Phil because he's not a doctor. I think it's really fucked up that he's been getting away with this. He's just Phil. Now, of course, this is a choice selection for any podcast trying to manipulate a young audience into becoming increasingly right-wing over time. Undeniably, all of their guests skew very hard right. They don't even have so much as a fucking liberal on here. And in reality, all that means is not that they're having like a fucking actual conversation with these idiots. They sit there and nod their heads and ask two-dimensional questions while their guests walk circles around them doing blatant, unchecked propaganda and lying to their audience. It's no wonder why Trump loves these guys and found himself on other podcasts too. It's the same thing. The trajectory that podcasts have taken over time has absolutely paved the way for prominent heads of state of foreign countries committing genocide to come on and say everything and anything they can to defend themselves with no risk of pushback or serious resistance at all. It's better than state TV, because they don't even have to pretend to be journalists. And as a matter of fact, Trump's communications team is who put the Nelkers in contact with Netanyahu at all.
Communications team at the White House hit us up, connected us with their communications team, and presented us the opportunity to do it.
I think this was an attempt to do a PR campaign for Israel. It's an issue that Trump himself is losing support on every day. The Nelk boys were also given a script of questions to ask.
So we walked in, and there was just like 20 people in suits there.
Yeah.
The setup was already there. Both flags. We couldn't touch anything or move anything. I'll be honest. They gave us a paper with questions to ask, but they also said they gave us a script to ask, but we didn't really follow it. Yeah. We tried our very best to ask some questions, but it was tough. But with a guy like that, I just wasn't really educated on the subject, you know? According to them, they added their own questions, but I'm assuming it was the one about whether he likes McDonald's or not. I don't know.
You like Burger King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
That's a crazy take.
And according to them, they had this set already prepared for them by the time they got there. Is it even their podcast at that point? They're on it, I guess. It's on their channel, but Netanyahu set this whole thing up. It's his podcast now. He settled on it. So let's get to the actual podcast itself. It's really, really bad. The first thing it starts with, naturally, is an ad for gambling. That's always a good sign. Make sure to use code NELK.
If you guys have not tried out the Prize Picks app, you guys gotta try it out. You guys know me and all the boys. We love watching sports, and we love to fire on sports at the same time. I can't even watch a sports game anymore without firing on Prize Picks. It just makes watching the game so much more fun.
The Nelkers start out their podcast by advertising exactly how underqualified and in over their heads they are. But they just continue anyway.
This is fucking nuts.
This
dude.
is so crazy. We are so not qualified to do this.
No.
This is
That's what's interesting about this. We just should not be doing this.
Well, we're too far too gone.
Man, this is a bad idea. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Sponsored by Prize Picks. Let's get started. They even congratulate themselves a little bit just for being able to have the opportunity, which is also gross.
To me, this is crazy. Like how far we've come, and we get to sit down with world leaders.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. So.
Yeah. I mean, for any backlash, this is just an opportunity, again, you can't really pass up. I don't see it. Like, there's no one else doing this.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I'll sit down with any world leader in the world.
I agree.
Not only did you not even earn this because Netanyahu found you easy pickings, but you just said you shouldn't even be doing it in the first place. You said that.
And I feel like on the internet now too, it's like you don't even know what's real anymore. Like you read shit and it's like you see a headline and it's like, is this true? Is this not true? So
yeah, you don't even know what's real anymore because of online and TikTok. It's just so confusing, the world. So today we have the president of lying and killing on to tell us why he's the most moral and innocent man in the world. Nelk 1 asks the first question.
how have you seen like the White House and stuff? Like how has it evolved over the years, over the times of you visiting it?
This is a fucking stupid question, man. Go on a history tour if that's the kind of shit you care about. Who is this for? Is their audience really interested? Man, I just gotta know what Bill Clinton's White House was like. Hey, why has Netanyahu been in power for that long? Netanyahu quickly pivots to what is the real focus of this conversation for some reason, praising Trump and talking about how he actually already made America great already.
I think there's never been a friend like Donald Trump in the White House for Israel. I think he's a remarkable leader. I think he's changing history. He said he'll make America great again. He's already done it.
Wow, that was fast. Maybe it's just me, but I also feel like Netanyahu is trained on Trump's mannerisms a little bit here. From his hand motions to the way he structures his sentences and his shallow anecdotes. It's like he's trying to be Trump in this conversation, but he's not.
You guys are very tight, right? Would you call it a bromance?
Well, you might. I mean, we've known each other several decades, and, I really like him.
A bromance? Like 80% of this podcast is Netanyahu dick riding for Trump. But the Nelk brothers also come in and do the same thing and ask questions like, how awesome is President Trump? Do you guys have a bromance? Have you kissed?
Did you have any type of relationship with Biden?
Not the same. I've known Biden for, 40 years. It was a friendship, but also it evolved into, how shall I say this? Severe disagreements.
This is one of the only interesting questions they ask the whole time. Only because it gives a twisted window into Netanyahu's stupid mind. Even pretending like Joe Biden didn't give Israel everything they wanted hand over fist is just, it's comical. It's ridiculous. What the fuck did they disagree on? He pretended to push back because he knew how bad it looked and still didn't actually do anything to stop it. Netanyahu coming onto this stupid trash podcast and being like, we had a lot of disagreements with Joe Biden is historical revisionism, which he's not unfamiliar with, but also just fucking gross. So I guess because they share a brain cell, the Nelk brothers are confused as to why there's so much support for Palestine from women and gays.
I'd say there's a lot of American support from the females, from the gays towards Palestine. So how does that make any sense?
Yeah, a lot of love for gays on this podcast, I'm sure. Have they ever had a gay guest on other than Andrew Tate? Netanyahu says this line, I think 2 or 3 times in this podcast, that gays for Gaza is like chickens for KFC, which is something that Israelis have said for a while now.
Gays for Gaza is like chickens for KFC. I mean, that's insane. The whole thing is absurd. Chickens for KFC, right? Gays for Gaza, or women for the women of Gaza. What are you talking about? So you can push this stuff on TikTok or whatever on the stuff, but you can't build peace or security on the rocks. They'll crash. I mean, these things will crash on the rocks of Middle Eastern realities. You can only build peace on truth.
Just recycling years-old propaganda because these 2 morons have never happened to hear it before. What is the KFC comparison? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Why do they say Israel's like starving the people of Gaza?
Yeah, why do people say that? I wonder why people say that.
Well, because we're trying to get the food in.
Oh, they say that he's starving Gaza because they're trying to get the food in. Right. He says that Hamas steals the food, which is a lie.
And we let food trucks in, and guess what happens when we let them in? Hamas steals the food.
YouTube's terms of service unfortunately limit what I'm able to say. I cannot speak to what's appropriate to happen to this war criminal. Can't go too far left, as they say. This line of questioning, if you can even call it that, perfectly exemplifies why the Nelk brothers are so clearly out of their depth.
You know, we do everything that is possible that no army has done. They want to leave. You know what Hamas does? Want you to stay because we want to have civilian casualties, because then they can show it on CNN or all these other networks and so on and claim that Israel is deliberately doing this.
He looks them dead in the eye and lies to their faces with this stupid fucking grin.
Why are more Palestinians not siding with Israel against Hamas then?
Asking why Palestinians aren't siding with Israel is kind of a funny follow-up, because yeah, if Israel was the one trying to get food in and trying to rescue everybody from Hamas, if they were actually the moral army that they say they are, why aren't the civilians on their side? But I also don't know what like taking Israel's side would realistically look like. In the context of the actual genocide, this question is stupid and shallow, but I can kind of see where he's coming from, because Netanyahu is saying that Israel is good guy. If I believed him, I guess that would also be my next question. But I don't have the brain of a baby, unfortunately for me. Anyway, Netanyahu answers this question with basically bullshit, saying Palestinians don't let Hamas into their buildings anymore.
But guess what's happened? Since we're beating Hamas, all of a sudden we see Palestinians rising. You have to see this to believe this, okay? And they say to Hamas, hey, you're not coming into my building. You know, you can't use my school or this hospital as your command post.
So why are you still blowing them up? They quickly move on from the genocide. I guess they ran out of pressing questions to ask the prime minister, and pivot to Iran, which I don't know if these guys know the difference.
Is the war with Iran, is it over now? After President Trump did authorize the strike and they destroyed the nuclear program, was
Well, it
that
certainly
like,
helped.
is there a chance of peace with this current regime?
Not with the regime, but with the Iranian people. And I think they've had enough. 80% of them want to throw these theological thugs out. They're just, you know, intimidated by secret police that has, you know, that just shoots them. But I think that there's a chance that the Iranian people will actually rise up.
Yeah, it's time for the people of Iran to rise up for a second Iranian revolution. I mean, third second coup. Oh, anyway, it's time for an ad. It's time for another ad.
I want to let you guys know about MoonPay, because whenever I need to do anything crypto related, MoonPay is the first app I open. Best thing about MoonPay is they literally have every payment provider almost on the planet. Apple Pay, Venmo, your credit card, your bank account. One of their partners, Zengo Wallet, is a self-custodial wallet.
Guys, this genocide propaganda was sponsored by MoonPay. If you ever need to do anything crypto related, sponsored by MasterCard, PayPal, Venmo, they love genocide. Somehow I imagine if the Nelk boys were sitting down with the Secretary General of Hamas, they wouldn't exactly have all of these fucking sponsors on their video. And MasterCard and Visa are trying to crack down on sex work, legal and permitted sex work on adult platforms or social media, because they think the content is inappropriate. But apparently genocide apologia is totally fine. But don't you dare have a dildo that looks funny. Thank you, MoonPay and Zengo Wallet. Anyway, back to the real expert line of questioning.
Why do you think you're like so hated worldwide?
Well, a lot of propaganda. First of all, I'm not hated worldwide. The Chancellor of Germany said Israel did the work for all of us, the new Chancellor of Germany, okay? I hear, you know, they had the G7. The president told me they were all going crazy. I mean, you know, in a positive way. Because we liberated them. Because those Iranian missiles were geared at Europe too, and ultimately at America with nuclear warheads. So we had the guts to do this. And, you know, the propaganda is there. I don't deny it. But people also have, you know, sometimes the truth beckons.
His answer to this is such a funny window into his own, like, personal narcissism. Well, there's a lot of propaganda, but actually, nobody hates me. Everyone loves me. I'm taking on the most evil and hated regime who everyone hates. Iran, who wants to nuke Europe and America. That's you. They're gonna kill you. This is my favorite Israeli strategy, acting as if Iran or Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or whatever armed resistance group they happen to be massacring the families of or starving the children of at the time, they're always coming for you next. But if you understand anything about their motivations, it doesn't make any sense. Those guys just don't like that Israel's doing what it is doing. And frankly, neither do I.
So, I mean, this Iranian regime hangs gays from cranes, shoots women on the sidewalk for not covering their hair, oppresses their people, spreads terrorism worldwide, kills Americans wholesale.
Jesus Christ, do you think Iran was the one doing the genocide? I'm no defender of the Islamic Republic by any means, but they aren't doing anything to provoke this kind of escalatory bombing.
How about women, okay? Women in Iran, they shoot the women. They shot this extraordinarily brave and beautiful woman, shot on the sidewalk because she showed too much hair.
This is obviously not true, and there's a plethora of information online, like a lot of videos you can just look up that debunk this very quickly, but he doesn't think you're smart enough to do that. He thinks you'll just see his status and be like, oh, he tells the truth, that's his job. Then Netanyahu starts alluding to assassination attempts by Iran against Donald Trump.
Kills Americans wholesale, tries to murder the American president, the former Secretary of State, the former National Security Advisor.
But he's just vague enough about this to imply that the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting and the attempted golf course shooting were Iranian agents? Iranian proxies? Not true really at all, but kind of hilarious to imagine Thomas Crooks being an agent of the Islamic Republic. Now, Iran did try to assassinate John Bolton at one point, Trump's former national security advisor and one of the architects of the Iraq war. Like Netanyahu, a genuine war criminal. Unlike Netanyahu, he doesn't have any charges pending at the ICC. Iran's attempt failed, and John Bolton is a loser and nobody likes him. He's a nerd, so no one even really gives a shit. And I guess Iran just gave up after the first try. They're just waiting out the clock at this point. The plots to assassinate Trump and other high-level cabinet officials from the first term are very real. None of them were successful, obviously, and I don't even know how many apart from John Bolton's were actually even attempted. But it actually makes a lot of sense when you consider that during the first term, Trump assassinated Qasem Soleimani, the commander of Iran's intelligence agency. So it's not like they're trying to destroy America. They just want, like, normal revenge. And I'm not making any moral judgment here. I'm just saying there's context here. The moral judgment I'm not allowed to say.
The question you have to ask is not why do they hate me or President Trump? Why don't they see what's good for them? And the answer is most of them do if you tell them the facts. But how do you tell them the facts over TikTok?
Are the Nelk brothers even awake during this conversation? What does that mean? Is TikTok really all it takes to make people hate Benjamin Netanyahu? I think there's got to be something else. It is genuinely crazy to see two people not even able to realize that they are being manipulated in real time. Or I guess they just don't care? I don't know.
You got any ideas for me?
I don't think it's the Iran thing. The main thing I just see is if I don't think people like if civilians are getting injured or killed.
We don't want it either.
Yeah, it's really easy for Benjamin Netanyahu to say that because he doesn't consider any Palestinian, civilian or not, child or not, a human being. And this is classic Israeli leadership. There's no consideration for anyone the IOF is cruelly murdering. Netanyahu quickly pivots to a racist blood libel about Palestinians fighting Israelis for 100 years.
Well, the Palestinians have been fighting us for 100 years before there was even a state of Israel. They don't want a state next to Israel. They want a state instead of Israel. And they teach their children that the greatest duty is to murder as many Jews as they want.
So this is him actively justifying civilian and child extermination in front of these fucking idiots. And they don't even understand what they're hearing.
It's the moderates that are described as such. They pay for slay. The more Jews you kill, the more they pay the murderers. I mean, that's a death
Which
cult.
is crazy, yeah. Some of the anti-Semitism I see is pretty nuts.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm an American Jew, and it's hard to identify as that.
This is genuinely sickening to piggyback off of this disgusting genocidal premise, as if it's a product of Palestinian anti-Semitism, and pretending that he sees it all the time?
even though we have to fight the vilification that is happening in America too, ultimately, people join winners. That's what happens. People join winners.
Netanyahu is saying out loud, once they kill enough people, or all the people that they want to, people will fall in line and act like they were always right. Might makes right.
What would you say is your greatest accomplishment and your biggest regret?
And now they're asking Netanyahu what his biggest accomplishment and biggest regrets are, like a high school yearbook question.
My greatest accomplishment is what I set out to do 40 years ago. Right after the rise of the so-called Islamic Republic of Iran, I said, this is the greatest danger facing Israel in the world. Because if this fanatic anti-American, anti-Israeli regime gets nuclear weapons, we will be in mortal danger. As we push back this great danger, again, with full partnership with President Trump and the United States of America. I'm very proud of that.
This interview genuinely benefits nobody other than Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's why it's so offensive, not just to me, but to the Nelk brothers' own audience. Netanyahu's a criminal. His IOF has killed hostages in Gaza. They killed hostages on October 7th. Then he starts rambling about making Israel's economy more free because it was a semi-socialist economy, which is bad. Because any genocidal far-right American ally dictator like Netanyahu would absolutely be anti-socialist and anti-communist before anything else. That's their primary job.
What's one thing you and President Trump have in common? Like something like specific, like a hobby or like something you both like, or like a food?
Hamburgers.
That's what Trump and Netanyahu have in common the most. They both like hamburger and McDonald's. When you're trying to appeal to an American audience for propaganda purposes, my favorite meal is hamburger. I eat hamburger every day. I ended semi-socialism to bring in hamburger to Israel.
Remember, Israel was semi-socialist, so we didn't even have a McDonald's or a Burger King, okay? And we'd land on an occasional visit to New York. You know what the first thing we did? McDonald's. And to be honest, Burger King. I like Burger King more.
What's your go-to at McDonald's?
No, I'll tell you, Burger King. We did the double,
Whopper?
The double,
I haven't ripped Burger King in a long
it's
time.
not.
Burger
call
King
it
kind of
something.
sucks.
Yeah.
No, you're wrong.
The BK Lounge can hit.
I disagree completely.
You like Burger King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
That's a crazy take.
Nelk, too, says one of the worst things I think you could ever say in this interview. Netanyahu's worst take is liking Burger King more than McDonald's. Brother, I think he has worse takes than that. I'm going to be honest. The Nelk brothers then let Netanyahu ramble about his service in the IOF and just kind of stop asking him questions for the most part for the rest of the whole podcast. Who cares? They did their ads already. It doesn't matter. After a while of him rambling, they throw in how much they like Tel Aviv nightlife and want to go back to Israel to club.
I want to
So
come
you
in the
come
summer.
in.
We'll come in August.
Good.
Yeah.
The beaches are good.
Yeah.
And nightlife is good.
Yeah, we
And the people
tested the
are friendly.
nightlife. We
Please
had a
come.
good time.
Yeah, we tested the nightlife out.
And then it just kind of ends. Now, usually I'm talking a lot about liberals and Democratic strategists that control the way the party does outreach and messaging, but it's not just Democratic strategists that have their heads on backwards right now. Right-wing strategists, apparently, are just as fucking clueless and have been obsessing over podcasting and social media outreach more than even liberals have, acting as if it's a key factor for an electoral victory in the future, which is, I think, exactly how this interview happened at all. Liberals and Republicans alike attribute far too much of the 2024 electoral victory that Donald Trump had to podcast and alternate media, rather than the weakness and resistance to Trump's campaign just lying over and over again. But as we've seen, podcasts make it very easy for candidates and politicians to do just that. Show up, lie, and then leave and get away with it. So the response from the Nelk brothers audience was pretty immediate and pretty damning. Even the comments on the podcast are pretty brutal. The top comment just says, "I miss when YouTube used to show dislikes, and it has more likes than the actual video itself." So, like any content creator, when faced with controversy, they panicked, went into crisis mode, and started live streaming.
Having Netanyahu on is like having modern day Hitler.
No, I saw that.
Which is, honestly, guys, I'll be honest, I'm here to... That's a good point.
They called up a few people that they know, Nazis, like Nick Fuentes and Sneeko. I don't get why talking to them is going to fix anything. Thankfully, they also spoke to Hassan Piker, who at least is normal, but I don't know how well he was even able to get through to them. They still just kept repeating, "We'll have on anybody. We'll have anybody in the whole world. No matter how controversial, we'll have them on no matter what."
You make a great point, and I understand your comparisons to Hitler. I see your perspective. And yeah, I think just with the Folsom Pod, like I told you, we're just not here to choose the guests. We're going to have anyone on, even if it is a wanted war criminal.
Which is more or less what they said in the beginning of this podcast with Netanyahu. So they definitely haven't learned anything. Also, really bad policy. There's no one like Netanyahu in terms of pure depravity and cruelty towards a civilian population as collective punishment and ethnic cleansing. The only person who really rivals that is Donald Trump. And even still, it's because of his enabling of Netanyahu as well. Apparently, they plan to have a pro-Palestinian on as their next guest. But again, there's not really any comparison. The most they'll do is like an academic or a scholar, and not the president of Palestine, because that doesn't exist. These aren't two countries going to war with one another. This is an occupying force bombing and starving a concentration camp. But you know, according to Nelk 1,
Life goes on. There's nothing you could do.
life goes on, I guess. It was honestly fascinating for me to watch this, because I was starting to feel like this kind of thing was almost inevitable. Between the saturation of podcasting, the reach it has, and the access that powerful people give to these idiots, I feel it was only a matter of time before someone blew up their career being burnt as propaganda for a more powerful figure. It just so happened to be the most twisted and unforgivable combination of guests and hosts possible. And you know what? If war criminals are going on podcasts, I guess I gotta make stupid commentary videos about them too. The big yellow arrow in the thumbnail. There is an active effort from the American government to normalize the campaign of extermination and starvation Israel is doing daily in Gaza. It's a PR campaign for Israel and Netanyahu alike. And YouTube will probably suppress this video because I mentioned Gaza too many times. Because corporations have capitulated to the government's whims, sometimes ahead of time. But as long as that effort exists from corporations, the media, and even the government, I'm gonna use every inch of breath in my lungs to resist it and tell people what Israel is doing is wrong. And I know I'm not alone. It's so transparently cynical and desperate that even the Nelk Boys audience sees right through it. Now, even people like Joe Rogan are refusing to have Netanyahu on. And for good reason. And I can only hope that this is a trend that continues until Israel is a memory. In conclusion, fuck Netanyahu, down with apartheid, and fuck stupid podcasters who think they have the right to have anybody on that they want with no expectations or responsibility. That's fucking stupid. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.